Welcome to this Mastery Empowerment course from New Earth One Network. This is designed exclusively for your higher self connection and embodiment. Welcome to this Mastery Empowerment course. We are pleased to be back with Jen Cunnings, who is a spiritual alchemist, a sound alchemist. And today we're talking about empathy alchemy, and if empathy is your superpower or kryptonite for you. Hi, Jen. Welcome back. Good to see you again.
Hi, Loren. It's so wonderful to be here with you again. Good to see you.
As we get started, we are going to talk about empathy. Most people are aware of feelings that they get and emotions that they get, but they may not be aware that most of the time that's really not theirs. So, can you explain your definition of empathy?
Sure, absolutely. Well, maybe I can tell it as well as in a story is when I began my healing practice. I had never heard of the word empath. This is about 10 years ago, kind of when it was just coming on the scene. And I read this article called 30 Traits of an Empath, and it blew my mind. It was it all 30 traits. I think I was, 28 out of 30, and I had no idea. So here I am, an empathetic person. I've just left corporate. I've begun a healing practice, and I'm like, oh my gosh, I can feel everything. And I didn't know. I didn't know that a lot of what I was sensing wasn't mine. So here's the traits. The ability to sense, feel what other people are feeling in the environment, the tendency to absorb other people's emotions and process it for them. Other traits such as overgiving, people pleasing, not having a sense of inner worth and inner value. And of course, going out into like larger crowds and things like that, feeling, overwhelmed. And so, what empaths I have found over the years, because ultimately what happened when I began my healing practice, 100% of my clients were empaths. So here I am beginning my journey of discovery and what is this for me, and realizing, there was, a hindrance to feeling overwhelmed all the time, feeling anxietized. So I started to like have this flashback of going back, being in school and being this sensitive young girl and always having like this just kind of undercurrent sense of nervousness, and it's because I was feeling so much of what was happening around me. So essentially, I just began to, do my own inner healing work. I learned through the experience of, thousands of sessions with empaths, just realize like, what are these core wounds? How does this get created? Right. And some of it's like that nature versus nurture. Some of us we just come in sensitive. We just come in empathic, intuitive, psychic. We come in as the light workers that we are. And that's wonderful. But then some of us have more traumatic, less than safe kinds of environments in childhood, which amplifies our empathy. It amplifies our sensitivity because our radars are like, when's the next shoe gonna drop? Am I safe? Am I okay? And so that sense of heightened intuition, heightened empathy gets like cranked up because it's a survival mechanism, it's a protection. So I see it like as multi-layered. I see like the empathic, sensitive light worker having like the symptoms of overgiving, people pleasing, sacrificing self. That's huge, right? Compromising our sense of what is true for us, right? Compromising our voice, our authenticity, and not always being even honest with ourselves because we are so much more comfortable deferring to other people. And then there's like the energetic part of it, right? So we have the symptomatic part, and there's many of those. Then the energetic part is that sense of overwhelm, that sense of heaviness. You get on the phone with your mother or your friend or your sister, and they're having this major crisis, and they're upset, and you're having a great day, and then you get off the phone, and you're like, oh my gosh, I feel so heavy. So there's that sense of just I'm taking it on and not knowing. A lot of empaths don't know how to keep their energy clear. And one of the reasons that we're talking about this today, that this is coming to fruition, is I really believe that it is essential that people who are empathic and sensitive take energetic care of themselves every single day, even multiple times a day. It's like what is required for the normal people, like the muggles, is different than what is required for the empathic person, the magicians, I would say. So then that's kind of like that middle level. And then that the deeper layer is the core wounds, the root places of past trauma, past experiences where we didn't feel safe, right? Where there's fear. And this goes beyond this lifetime. Think about when we lived in, tribes, and it was necessary for us to fit in and exist in the village, the tribe, or whatnot. And if you were going to go do your own thing, toot your own horn, express your own voice, and you were displeasing to the people around you, you're out of there, you're exiled, you're dead. So there's a lot of this core wounds of fear. I would say fear and self-worth are like the two big ones that I've seen 90 plus, probably 100% of my empathic clients and students have, where they don't have a real strong sense of self-worth, and that there's trapped emotions that we hold in our bodies, because a lot of empaths, because they're feeling and sensing so much, it can be overwhelming. So they just start stuffing it in there, right? Just repress it, suppress it, and get it in there. So those are the kind of layers that I see working with the empathic community. And um, as you can see, or as I shared, there's a lot of traits, right? There's a lot of different ways in which this is expressed. And, some of the things I shared may resonate with you and maybe some don't. But I definitely see these trends, in like, I'm sure like your community, Loren, who are sensitive, open, light workers, healers, they're all empathic. And so so then there's this bridge. There's the place where the empath is kind of like heavy, they're overwhelmed, they don't know how to manage this. And then there's a way to kind of turn it up and alchemize it, transmute it, so that it can be to your advantage. It can become a strength, it can become the superpower. So that's a very long-winded answer to your question.
Well, it brings up really good points and questions. Like one is, you mentioned that 100% of your clients were empaths, and it makes us wonder, are we all empaths, or do we get to a point where we can become an empath? If we go down the road of spirituality and we open ourselves up, do we naturally become empathetic? Because if that's happening, I would say that the majority are not even aware that that's going on. So very interesting, isn't it? What would you say about that? Are we all, do we all have that ability? I'd say yes, but some of us shut it down. You said the muggles. Shut it down.
Yeah, I mean, of course, we're all empathic, we're all intuitive because, at the highest level, we're all connected and we're all one. So we can certainly, when we're not weighed down by, the illusion and the heaviness of this physical reality, we have telepathy, we have intuitive sensing, and we're all open to that level of vibrational communication, right? And so, but then there's that place with those who are awakening, or they've been awakened, where that sense of empathy gets turned up and on because they're starting to open and like, oh my gosh, there's so much more to this world than I realized. I'm starting to see things or sense things or know things, and I don't know how I know them. That I can't tell you how many conversations of clients come in and like, I don't know what's happening to me. And so then it's the having the awareness of how to utilize these sensitivities for to support yourself, to support your journey, and perhaps to support your service work if you're called into that. And so, to me, yes, to answer your question, we are all empathetic to varying degrees. And then to the ones that have that really extra heightened sensitivity, it's acknowledging if there are those wounds within ourselves that are perpetuating that empathy to where it becomes a burden, it becomes a hindrance, right? So going out, like I know several people, they're like, I just don't go into crowds. I just don't do it. And I used to be that way. I used to go into places and I'd have to, drink a lot of wine or whatever to just shut it down. But I've learned to manage my energy, to strengthen my energy, and to keep my energy constantly clear so that when I am in a space like that, I'm okay with it. I might have to tweak a little bit when I'm in there. So actually, I took my kiddo to the 21 Pilots concert like 2 nights ago. And we walk in, I'm in Dallas. We walk into this American Airlines Center. It's gigantic. I don't know how many people are there, but it's crowded. And so my initial is like, ooh, I'm like, no, like we know how to do this. And so I actually went to the restroom, took a few breaths, got nice and grounded, centered into my heart, and just began to expand my energy out and began to emanate the frequency of love. And when I can get to that place, I'm aware that I can actually support the shifting of the frequency of the whole, right? To where I'm not at the effect of, but I can be at the effect for those around me.
Yes, that is the superpower.
That's the superpower.
That's the superpower. I love that. So really managing the energy. I know I would say that most people who are watching and listening to this absolutely don't like crowds. I actually thought it was related to Lemuria for me.
Hmm.
Doing my inner work, that's what I got. But then core wounds, you mentioned tribes, and I remember a past life where I was actually taken out because of my behavior in the tribe. And I wonder, it makes me question even today why, how things came around. Who was the person, who was the thing that put the rules in place of this modern society? That's very interesting and a whole other conversation. But it's really interesting because that for me is a core wound.
Yeah.
So, what you're saying is if there's an unawareness, like you were aware when you went to that concert, you were aware and you took actions to alchemize that and turn it into a superpower. We are going to talk more about techniques to do that because that's our role. But isn't it
Right.
fascinating that we just would be overwhelmed by it. We would shut down by it. And
Right.
if we're not aware that it's going on, wow, that really is going to hinder us. We won't go out into crowds. We're going to miss opportunities to share our light like you did. That's the transformation our world is waiting for. That's the transformation that we all raised our hands to incarnate for, you know? So
Yes.
I just find that fascinating that you've been able to work with it in that way. So let's talk more about the alchemy of empathy. You made a conscious decision, and it began with your feeling. When you went in there, you felt that feeling, but that feeling was actually a trigger for you to shift it.
Right, because there's an automatic behavior. It's an autopilot because we have experienced so much overwhelm and trauma in this lifetime and past lifetimes. So, as with any healing work, awareness is number one. And when we're paying attention and we're aware, then we are immediately empowered to know that we can shift a situation. Maybe not always in that moment, but for me, like when I go places and I'm triggered, I get on the phone with certain people and I'm triggered, like I make a mental note or even a physical note to myself so that when I go sit with myself every day, I can actually go in there and alchemize that energy. And what you and I talked earlier this year, Loren, when I we were doing the self-love alchemy, and I think I might have mentioned on your show even, I decided this year to commit to self-love. And part of that commitment was to sit down with myself every day. Now I'm not, I miss some days, so the commitment was I am going to do a self-healing session on myself as often as I can and aim for once a day and not judge myself if I don't do it. There's never a time, and I've done thousands of healing sessions in my life, right? There's never been a time where I've sat down with myself and I'm like, "Oh, all clear. I'm good to go. There's nothing to work on today. There's nothing to release today." And so, as a healer and as someone who's done this professionally, if I'm still clearing my stuff, I can't imagine the normal person on the street who's just awakened and not hasn't even begun, or even the person like myself before I committed to this year who was doing the healing work and like, oh, I'll work on myself every couple of weeks because I'm doing the healing work on others. I'm good. Nay, nay. That's not accurate because there's so many layers like we talked about. And so back to your initial is that we require that attention all the time to alchemize and shift and transform our energy. And just tagging on what you said a little bit ago, because why are we doing this? Like, yes, we want to feel better. Yes, we want to have, more creation capacity. Yes, we want to, manifest our relationships and our jobs and abundance and all these things. But truly, if we're not being ourselves, and a lot of empaths are hiding themselves, then we are not doing what we signed up to do. Like that, you said it. Like that's the key. We raised our hand and said, I am here to bring my unique energy, expression, codes, light, source that's unique through me and the expression of me. And if we are hiding or compromising or spending all our time taking care of everybody else and putting us last, we can't. And then we're really not doing what we signed up for, right? We're like, oh, I'll get to that mission later. you know? So it's so important.
The immaculate awareness is a really good practice. Immaculate awareness
Mm,
of everything and every feeling, so that the triggers that come up, they all come up, they still come up for, I would say, even though there's longtime spiritual teachers that may be beyond the triggers. I
sure.
have heard some reports from people in our audience that nothing triggers them anymore. But for the rest of us, these triggers, it really is this immaculate awareness is taking the trigger and moving us from blaming others or situations, into taking the responsibility and taking that deep dive within to root out that trigger. When you're
Exactly.
talking about those core wounds as part of the layers that are involved in this,
Yeah.
what do you do to handle the triggers and keep your energy clear?
hmm So when I sit down to do a self-healing session on myself, I have a certain protocol that would probably take me a little longer to explain. But what I teach my students initially, and I still do this, is I identify whatever the trigger was. So let's say it's anger, or maybe you're feeling, maybe you're online, in comparing yourself to somebody else, so you're feeling less than. I actually, side note, did a little tuning into your audience before we got on today, and I'll talk a little bit about that in terms of what came up. So, whatever you've identified, right? Any feeling that's less than loving, any thought that is self-critical, those are all the triggers that we can be aware of where we're not in a space of, light, bright, and feeling love for self and others. So whatever that is for you, that uncomfortable, whatever, I sit down and I commune and begin to connect with my body. And I ask my body where this energy is stored. And I ask, between my body's consciousness, my body's divinity, my higher self divinity, I ask to get to connect to that place that is that core origin, as deep as I can go. Because, sometimes there's aspects of our consciousness is like, we're not going here today. But there's always something. And our bodies are always willing to engage with us, to respond and say, yeah, because our bodies want to be clear. Our bodies want to receive the higher frequency of divinity, light, and love that we are. Right? That's what we're transmuting. That's the whole basis of alchemy is allowing ourselves to embody more light, right? To really be a truer, purer expression. And so when you ask your body, hey, show me where this is, your body is a willing participant. And then once you have an awareness of that, I feel it physically. Some people may, sense it visually. Some people have that clear cognizant of just knowing. But most of the time, like when I've led people through this, 95%, I would say even higher than that, feel a sensation in their body. And I've done this hundreds of times, maybe thousands. So once we've identified that, then it's just it's kind of an open game where you're like, okay, what do I need here? And maybe you don't know. And if you don't know, that's okay, because a lot of times I don't know. Then I'm just, okay, well, can I sit with you and be present with you? Because like we talked about earlier, a lot of times the stuff that is being held in there, it's because it's been repressed. It's been shoved down. We've avoided it and distracted ourselves from it. So once the invitation's there with the body and we're willing to connect with this, sometimes it's an emotion and we need to cry it out or scream it out, right? Sometimes it's an inner child that's been neglected and denied, or we've created a separation or a betrayal with that part of ourselves, and we just need to go and love and give it love. So there's so many different ways in which we can approach this, but really, like, to make it super simple, it just needs love. Like, to me, alchemy is about taking these densities in the body and transmuting them to love or light. And that's an interchangeable word for me. And so however you can love this part of you so unconditionally and so compassionately, that begins to lighten us and take us to that other side. And it truly is that simple. But most of the time, A, we're not aware, and B, we just don't know that that's a possibility. Oh my gosh, I can heal this myself. I can alchemize energy myself.
This brings us to the topic of the energies, the cosmic galactic energies that we're faced with right now, and
Mm,
particularly this year. And it seems like this year will be next year and the next year. And there's this acceleration. That's a really good word for it, acceleration. And so, and we've said this before, that it seems like it's a pressure cooker to surrender to love. But
Mm.
you were mentioning, as we're talking about our bodies, you were mentioning that you felt something recently with the energies so far of this year and this acceleration. Can you share a little bit about that? Because you're in tune with your body, and I think everyone would like to hear what you witnessed.
Oh, the morning I woke up, I was sharing. Yeah. So, yeah, just this was actually last week, I think, or maybe the week before. This just happened, and it was right before that full moon. We had that full moon not long ago, and Mercury retrograde, and I don't know whatever else was happening in the cosmic universe. I pay attention to the astrology, but I'm like, preschooler when it comes to that. But there was stuff, right? Galactic cosmic stuff happening. And I just randomly, my body woke me up, and it was not just vibrating. I was telling Loren before the show, it was we've all felt vibration, or maybe you haven't, but I tend to feel surges through my body. I've had super intense experiences of feeling energy. This was totally different. My body was literally having an earthquake. Like, it was shaking, and it woke me up, and then it lasted just a few more seconds, and then it just ended, and it was over. And so, and I grew up in San Francisco Bay Area, so I'm very acutely aware of what an earthquake feels like, and this was exactly like that. And I don't know what it was, except I just have the sense that my body was receiving higher frequency energies. I think it was the same night I was dreaming about swimming with dolphins, or not dolphins, whales in Lemuria. And so, and I've been doing just, deep healing work on myself, every day, but some days are more deep. And so I think, like, my body was acclimating to a higher frequency coming in, right? Because we're embodying higher frequencies all the time, and sometimes, it's a little more intense than others. So it didn't scare me or anything. I actually kind of giggled. I was like, all right, I'm getting some downloads and some light codes coming in. Um, but I share that because we're all having many, experiences that maybe we're not familiar with, and
Mhm.
intensity of emotions, because there's so much light coming in, because there's so much high frequencies. I just see it as like this downpour. But if we have a lot of junk in our bodies, that stuff is going to start to surface it up. And this is what I'm seeing happen. And this is why it's crucial for empathic people, light workers, to do their self healing work every day, because you're more open to receive these higher energies, right? And it's going to be overwhelming if you've got something in there that you haven't dealt with, or it's coming up and you don't know how to deal with it. Right. So a lot of emotions, a lot of intensity, a lot of, physical symptoms in the body are presenting, a lot of, upheaval in the life seems to be happening. And I'll just share really quick, as I mentioned, I've been on this healing journey a long time. Like, I took my first energy class like nearly 20 years ago, and I feel like I really am doing, just another level of work on myself with that self-love commitment this year. And oh my gosh, I just completely lost my train of thought.
That's good enough, because the self-love commitment is the last thing that you mentioned. And I think I could feel our audience really tuning into that and saying, yes, you know what? I want to take that self-love commitment as well. And that self-love commitment is doing the energy work and
Yes.
changing it
Yes.
and being aware, again, immaculate awareness.
Yeah.
So you had mentioned you tuned into our group and you felt some things about our group.
I did. And so I just asked to connect into your field. And of course, your field is connected into the field of everybody who's listening now and later and 2 years from now, just, out in that whole quantum field. And so I just asked, because it was interesting, because I know we always do an energy experience, when we're on the call together, and it just wasn't coming in as to what we were going to do. And so this morning I'm in meditation. I'm like, I'm just going to tune in and see. And so I was like, oh, I'll just ask to see what needs to clear, and then we can go from there. So these are overarching themes. There were like three or four. So the first one that came up is self-judgment, not feeling like you are enough. And the word comparison came in really strong. That's why I mentioned in the social media, it's like, oh, well, this person's doing such and such, and this person's doing such and such, and what about me? Like, why am I not doing that? What's wrong with me? So this inner critic of judgment, of really like not feeling enough. And one of the things that I think is so important for us to know about ourselves is we're not here to be like anybody else, right? Like if you're here in your mission and you're stepping into your service work, or you don't even know you're going to be stepping into your service work, you own this unique frequency. These codes, the vibration in which you emanate, exist at, nobody else has it on the planet. And only you can be that. And even if you're not doing anything, you still hold that frequency of that energy that the planet needs. And so if we're comparing ourselves, if we're not feeling not enough, I kind of want to just go in and say, like, it's already built in. I was in meditation the other day, and the energy was like, the only thing that's preventing you from creating instantaneously. I was getting like these downloads about manifestation and working. I was like feeling all these like particles in the field, and I'm like, well, should I just be able to gather those and bring those into form? And the message was, well, there's just still constructs that are within you. Constructs being limiting belief systems, or energies I haven't cleared yet, or whatever that is. And then the following message was, you already hold all the codes and the keys and everything you have, that everything you need to be and do here. It's all inside. And sometimes we just got to unlock some of that, or peel off some layers. So anyhow, comparison was the big one. And then, on the tail end of that is that reminder of you are unique. You're not here to be anybody else but you. And it sounds kind of cliche, but it's really, really true. So, empathic people tend to try to fit in, to feel safe. There's a conformity thing, like, oh, I can just kind of, they tend to meld and chameleon other people. And really, our calling is to be our most unique, authentic, truest self. So that was the one. And then the other one was not letting go of the past, having unforgiveness, holding on to past wounds, and a little bit of like a victim mentality around it. So you said it perfectly earlier, Loren, about self responsibility, right? We are responsible for our energy. We are responsible for alchemizing. We are responsible for clearing this. So if we're in blame, and we're in, you did this and you victimized me and all that, you'll never be able to access it, because that other person can't shift that for you. That other person can come back and say, I am so sorry, please forgive me. And you say, I forgive you, but then you're holding on to all this resentment and anger. That's the energy that needs that forgiveness to clear. And it's because it's a real disempowerment to self if we're not willing to take full responsibility for what is going on within us. So that was that, and just kind of felt like there was just some baggage. Then the other was not honoring ourselves, not valuing, just low self-esteem, lack of confidence. This is why, so what I've seen in myself, especially, and of course, many of my clients, is that if we don't have a sense of our own value and worth, we seek to get that worth through our good deeds, through taking care of others, through over giving. So then we get that little hit, that little, oh, I'm a good person. So a lot of the behavior of that is to seek your worth outside of yourself. So then your focus is perpetually outside of yourself. And then of course that is, the nature of our society is to focus outside. And so this is really about, again, like there's an opportunity for us to be with ourselves as often as we can, because that value, that sense of self-love can never ever come from outside, because it's already inherently built in. um the last thing is, and of course this is classic for the empathic community, is attachments to other people. And whether it's you're attached to what other people think of you, or the classic codependent relationship that so many people who are in that disempowered state end up in. So, the classic, empath narcissist. Both are trying to seek self-worth, just in different methods. So the other energy that wanted to come through to support in clearing today is just really, like, I call it the energetic car wash. Let's just get in there and clear, remove other people's energy. So that's what presented.
Interesting, very interesting. And I think that those watching and listening can feel points that you've mentioned and say yes. In fact, I was just chatting last night about this comparison. We were just saying when you compare
Mm,
yourself to others, you suffer. And we did mention social media where, and even myself, I will admit, when I get on certain social media, I consider myself a strong person, but I can
yeah.
feel very vulnerable. And you brought up that feeling of not enough. And it's just because the certain social media platforms will tend to do this. But I think I'm an empath. I think it's empathic because I just said that's unusual for me to feel that way, but I'm feeling that other people are feeling that way. So this is a very interesting point. So let's work on clearing this. Do you want to do an energy experience for us now?
Yeah, let's do it. Excuse me. That's me already clearing energy, by the way. Just starts to bubble up through my body.
Yeah, true.
I do have my bowl here. I don't. I'm gonna probably save it for the end, but if that sounds okay to. Okay. All right. So I'm gonna change the sound here. So if you're listening, and you'd like to participate, you don't necessarily have to do this, but if you can be in a space of receiving, I definitely recommend to sit down or lay down, close your eyes, which just is going to enhance the opening and the receptivity. And if you don't, that's okay too, because you'll still get the energy, but let's go ahead and do that if you can. Okay. So I'm going to just take us through those themes that I just mentioned to clear. And when we do energy work like this, I also ask that all the other energies, everything that's associated, known and unknown, that's available for you to transmute, to alchemize back to love today, to be included. So I'll invite you to just take a moment to think of something that has triggered you over the past couple days, maybe 10 minutes ago. So when I say trigger, just any place where you're feeling, just less than loving, or a negative thought about yourself, a judgment, anything that's bothering you. And it really doesn't matter how big or small, because what we're really doing is we're creating a field right now, and we're just putting it in the field with the intention of all the beautiful souls who are here to support this transmutation into back to love. So I'll be working with your energy fields, and I'll be bringing in some light language and some sound. And again, the intention is for all of us to bring your junk, bring your baggage, so we can just lighten and open our receiving to receive more of the love and the true divine nature that we are. So go ahead and begin to take some nice, slow, deep breaths. And we'll set the intention to open up to receive the infinite love that is always pouring in. We are love. We are divine. And so we ask now that any of the constructs, any of the places we've held density, trauma, emotions, wounds in our body, come up to the surface now. As we are in a space on this planet now where the ability to alchemize these energies back to love are heightened. So we're going to bring up that initial theme of self-judgment, comparison, not enough. Anywhere you have been afraid or unwilling or scared or didn't feel worthy to be your truest, purest, unique expression of self. Go ahead and ask your body where you are holding that energy. And we're simply going to send that part of you love. Ora sanele elakara elohroana alakiatanakia. E toro ora sanare elahane e kiare e soro ora hanekia. Doro ora satare bare sheniri idiana aro oso korokwa. Alakienere elahiana alora asanaki. So there's a lot of energy in the throat here. So I will invite you to just breathe and send light to your throat. And remind yourself that the expression of you, whether that's through voice or sound or creation, that's what you came here to do, is to be that pure expression of you. Ora sokorana yatele, ano ora sanara are etana kiano koa. Taking some deep breaths, and we'll move on to clearing the energy of the past baggage we're carrying, our unforgiveness, the righteousness that we have when we've been wronged. Anywhere you have felt victimized or disempowered, just bringing all that up now. Itoro ane ateleane edo oro soto do oro soto do yakine ilehane oro uma ara osokora sanada ara shokoro ki. Itoro ni itiriana mo oro utana yasheneri yasho ora sa yashakia. This is where you can invite in, open up to receive the pure power of your divine I am presence, the purity of that power. Etoro arra satani atiana, ora asatana arra satadikia. And then moving on to where we don't honor ourselves, where we have given our attention, we have not made ourselves a priority. We've put other people's happiness before our own. Just asking the body to bring this up for you to send it love, holding compassion, holding this nurturing, comforting energy towards every part of you now. De lora hana are e todo ora satadiana ya yatikia. Ilakana ora sonamo ora sananiata yakia. Itano yine itiani ede la hana ara sotodo ora koana kia. And then lastly, we're simply going to ask to clear, to remove, kind of just going underneath a beautiful waterfall to detach anybody's energy from your field, from your body, past, present, future. Anywhere you've allowed other people's energy to enter in a way that was not meeting your vibration or higher. All the energy from the collective that you are taking on that's not yours to process. Ora so lahare esetelea riana kiada ora soto do ora shakiati na ma ora ono or usatada are kia ora kua. Ora satada borra ni idiana yada ano oro sanana yata na kiato oro kua. And finally, just allowing yourself to rest, to be in a place where you can comfort yourself, or you can even ask your team of light to come down and embrace you in love. Just an invitation for you to surrender, to let go. So many of us who are in that empathic, we're so busy taking care of others. We so often just don't give ourselves the time to really receive, to really be in a place of rest. So just give yourself a few moments for that now. And just give yourself a little squeeze, maybe wiggle around a little bit. Just know that some energy has shifted for you today, even if we don't have an exact awareness of what that is. So just sending lots of love to you and your body.
Thank you, thank you, thank you, Jen.
You're welcome.
I know people receive this differently, and it would be very interesting to hear how people receive it. And that's a good place for our comments. Personally, I felt it in my heart so much, and here I thought everything was fine. But this brings an awareness, a deeper awareness, and an opening more to love. And then the usual suspects, the throat. Before you even mentioned it, I was clearing my throat. Very interesting. And now we just feel embraced by love. Interesting too, the baggage from the past was all in the solar plexus for me.
It was, yeah, that's exactly. I felt heart, then throat, then it went down to the solar plexus, and then down to the womb at the very end.
And now I got goosebumps. So thank you. Very healing for our community and those watching. And, even in the hips, and that's in that area as well. So again, this just allows us to tune in to our bodies so much more and to feel what's going on. And our bodies want that light and that love. So happy clearing, everyone, as
Yes.
we move on the planet at this time with new energies coming in. And I love the clearing because we do feel empowered. We do feel the self-love coming in to replace those feelings of lack or self-judgment and everything. So this is beautiful. And this is a wonderful taste of the work that you do, the clearing work that you do. And now I'd like to chat about the course that you're going to teach. This is a very affordable opportunity for people to come in and join you online for a 2-hour workshop. And this is
Hmm.
based on empathy alchemy. Tell us what's going to happen in this webinar.
Sure. So we'll be talking about a lot of what we talked about today, where we can self-identify where we are operating and existing in a space of disempowerment, particular to our empathic nature. Um, and we will look at different ways to um, energetically self clean, is kind of how I look at it. So, just as we, hopefully require a shower every day and brush our teeth every day, it's of my humble opinion that we require energetic clearing every day. And it doesn't have to take long. And so I empower my students and clients to, through awareness, through the self identification of what's coming in, to have the tools and the resources to actually initiate a daily self healing practice. And again, to realize that, it's maintenance. So I just went to the dentist this week, so I'm thinking of this, so I go to the dentist and I get the deep clean, and there, all the places that maybe I didn't get with the toothbrush. And so every once in a while you need to go get the power hose, right? Or you go to the dentist, or take your car to the car wash. And that's where I come in, is to help kind of get the deeper clean, but then to leave you with the tools and the resources so that you can do this yourself. What I've realized over the years is that as my frequency changes, as my capacity to hold space expands, that like just transmits out. So for instance, when we hang out together in a Zoom for a few hours, like, we all get to bathe in the frequency, and then we all get to shift. An example of that is, back when my light language came in, I was scared to death, like horrifically scared to death to share it, right? Sounds so weird, blah, blah, blah. I happened to have a space at the time, a little small classroom. And so I decided, Spirit is like, guides are like, you got to do this. You have this gift. This is what you came here to do. Part of what you came here to do was to share these transmissions and these energy healings. So I just booked it. I put it on the calendar. Come hang out with me in my bowls, and I'm going to make some funny sounds. And so the people who showed up, they're like, we don't know why we're here and we don't know why we're coming back. They all opened up to the gift of light language. They just did, right? So we get to entrain the frequency. We get to support others in their awakening and clearing. And because, I've done so much work on myself, which has been tremendous, and especially in that empathetic place, going into the concert, and just being in a nice open space, I'm able to kind of transmit that. So that's part of what we're doing in the call. And so it's a little bit of conversation, some deep energy healing work, and some education on terms of what you can do. And then I always leave time for questions and a space where, um, I turn off the camera actually and leave a little extra so that, like, if you're, if somebody's having a really rough time and wants some personal one on one, I mean, we're not going to be spending a whole hour doing a session or anything like that, but I'm happy to tune into your energy and I can reflect back to you kind of what's happening intuitively, where some of your blocks are in your body. But we learn in this class how to identify our blocks in our body, how to be an alchemist, how to transmute the density back into light, how to navigate our emotional overwhelm, how to, manage the triggers of the day. And back to what we talked about before, Loren, with it's if we're willing to take responsibility and then here's some tools, you don't have any excuses anymore. you know? And it really is all to for you to be you. I asked one of my friends. She's now a friend, but she was a client for a while, a student for a while, and I said, like, can you give me some feedback on, what I helped with most? When from the time you got to, where you were and where you are now. And she's like, oh, I wrote it down because I'm going to butcher it, but it was something like, you helped me to do what I came here to do.
Mhm.
You helped to awaken that. Because when she wasn't in that place, she was spending all her time taking care of others. All of her attention was, family, friends, crises, work, and she didn't give herself the time that she really needed to uncover who she was. So that's that's the bigger picture outcome, right? Because when we're in that space of who we're meant to be, that's when creation comes in. Because what I do know about empaths, what I do know about people who are, you know, attuned to the subtle energies, we can create like nobody's business. Like when we're in that alignment and we're in flow and we're channeling, like I can sit down and I'm like astounded of what I can create in a very short amount of time. Versus like if I'm judging myself and I'm sitting down and I'm making it hard, I'm not in alignment, right? So one of the things about what we'll talk about in this class too is how to shift from this place of, oh, I got to get it done, I got to control it, I got to work it from this angle, make it hard with the Muggle way, or we can remember that we're magic, and we can create from that space, and that's just a nice perk.
And we want to remember that we're magic. And so it's beautiful that you are facilitator for this, attuning us to the subtle energies, showing us how we can be in alignment, clearing the energy of others. These are really great tools, wonderful tools, necessary tools that will allow us to be our authentic self and to be who we came here to be and to manifest great things very quickly because of it. Really wonderful. Thank you so much. We're
Mm.
excited for this class, and it really is a beautiful opportunity for people to join you in this session and experience more tools that they can walk away with and use in their everyday life for the daily energy cleanse that needs to be done. I think that some of us we have these tools and we may not use them every day. So this is why it's really important, because sometimes when push comes to shove, we may sit down and say, wow, I got to clear my energy. But when we get
Right.
ahead of it, we're not shoved. We are maintaining it before we get thrown off balance.
Exactly.
Wonderful.
Hmm.
And you have a monthly membership as well.
Yeah, so back to what you were just saying, the commitment and the consistency. And so it came through this year to offer a monthly membership at a very easy entry point. And it's where I realize like well, I need to commit to myself, and I'm already doing this, right? I'm doing this professionally, and I'm not committing to myself every day. So I'm like, well, if I'm not doing it, then other people probably aren't either. So like I said, when I committed this year, I thought, well, what can I do to support consistency? Right? Because how often have we maybe gone to a healer or gotten a reading, and we might make a shift here and there, and or even done like a big weekend training or a week long training, and we feel empowered and inspired, and then like a couple weeks later it's like it kind of fizzles. And so I created this membership to for several reasons: to create community, to create consistency, commitment to self love, commitment to be able to alchemize whatever is going on in your life. And the membership also includes a library where I have put my, storehouse of light language transmissions, sound healings, um, uh, guided meditations, and I've categorized it. So I've got, for instance, a bunch of tracks around abundance and prosperity. I've got another section on clearing and purging your energy. I've got another section on, chakra support. Another section on aligning and balancing. So, essentially have created so like if you wake up one day and you're like, oh my gosh, I'm feeling really heavy, I need to clear my energy, and you want a little support, you can go into the library and just listen to the track. And then there's a community platform. It's just like a social media platform, but private, because again, my goal was to take it off of that conditioning of where we get onto social media and we're like, oh, should I say this? Should I post this? What are they going to think of me? And I wanted to create a platform where people could just be truly raw, truly authentic, and just, know that this community is cultivated to feel, sacred, and where we're honoring each other and we're here for, similar reasons. We've got this, this mission of becoming ourselves. And so safe place in the community. And then I have like guest speakers and pop-up calls and things like that that will be coming. So anybody who is willing to, work on themselves, who wants the support, we do a live monthly class where I do a deep, dive with the energy, Q&A. You can get personal attention in the community. I even have one of my students is coming in who's super intuitive, and she's a powerful healer to help moderate the community platform. So I'm like, I hope this is a no-brainer. Less money than you're probably spending out to dinner one night.
Yes. I love that word no brainer. It's affordable, and it's the support that you offer, because I do agree. We get this question a lot here. People go to a weekend event, or nowadays it's Zoom webinars, and we can feel really high and elated
Yes.
and bolstered from that. But there's always the question that comes up: why do I feel like I sink low after that? And it's because we're out of that energy, or we're back in what we could say the 3D world. What is your take on this as to why someone could feel like we're elevated, but then we drop down below it? I mean, that's why you created the support system to take care of that with all these wonderful tools. But what's going on with that energetically? It's like we're high, but then we're sunk low again.
Right. Last year I led a retreat in Mount Shasta, and I came home and I was blissed out for weeks. And I was like, is this going to be my forever? I like nothing could touch me. I wasn't triggered, nothing. I was like pure bliss, peace, joy. And so, just like you said, there was 2 or 3 weeks in that decline, that contraction. I call it contraction happened, and to me, it's basically we once we've really like hung out in this energy, integrated that energy, there's still unresolved energy in our body that we haven't cleared. So back to the self sessions every day, and the deeper we go, like I'm clearing stuff in like really ancient timelines right now. Um, like this year, my external life is pretty hunky dory. Like I'm pretty good. Like nothing has happened, but this year my internal deep clearing has been off the chain. So my sense is that we can operate at this vibration only so long because we still have the heaviness, the baggage that we haven't yet given attention to. And so the body is going to say, "Hey man, like that's great. We're up here and we're holding this frequency, but there's still some stuff down there that's going to need some love." And so again, back to the transmutation, the alchemy of it. It's like the more we commit to clearing ourselves and purifying our energy, we can hold that space for longer and longer and longer, and then maybe never. We don't ever need to contract again, right? Because I was like 2 or 3 weeks in, I'm like, is this my forever feeling? And my higher self is like, nope.
And then boom, you felt the contraction.
Yeah.
Yeah. But again, don't you think that we get better and stronger at recognizing
Yes.
when we're kind of coming down off of that vibration? And you recognize right there that there was still some residue in the body, still some baggage. And again, that's that self care, that self love, your commitment to self love, which is so beneficial, that it truly is inspiring to the rest of us because, some of us tend to take it so personally and be really hard on ourselves when it comes about.
Yeah.
But there doesn't need to be that situation. Then we just come back to the tools that allow us to clear it out. We've got a whole heck of a lot of clearing. And again, it's not just from this life, but so many other lives and experiences.
So
And
much.
it could even be off planet as well, off planet lives. So as we move and be gentle with ourselves, we've got some beautiful tools. Alchemy, as you call it, we are the masters of our life. So all of the things we've talked about here today is available right here on this webpage, your course, all of the other items that you're offering. Beautiful, Jen. Thank you, thank you, thank you so much. Your vibration has lifted us today, buoyant in our own self love, and we're excited to join you as well. As we say goodbye, would you like to offer any final thoughts?
Hmm. My parting thought, and I think I might have mentioned this, is that in meditation the other day, I truly got the message that we are divine. And I heard the words holy. Like you are holy and your body is holy. And I knew that message was important because I don't use that word holy. And so I just want to impart that no matter what you're going through, no matter how much you've judged yourself or any kind of wrongness you've ever felt, and I think there's a lot of punishment stuff we do, like at the truest you, at the natural you, you are divine, you are holy, you are pure, and you are love. And we're really here just to remember that and open that back up again.
And we take a big, deep breath and breathe that in, and it feels divine, sacred, and holy. Beautiful words. Thank you, thank you, thank you. And Cunnings, namaste.
Namaste. Thank you, Loren.